Have you ever caught yourself acting one way at work, another way with friends, and then a completely different third way when you're all alone? Almost like you're putting on masks for each situation. This is not just societal behaviour, but in Jungian psychology, this is the persona archetype at work. This is the Re-Entry Archive, and today we're going to explore the persona in more detail. We'll look at where the concept comes from, what lessons the persona is trying to teach us, how its shadow may show up in life, and how the persona can appear in psychedelic experiences. We'll also look at how you can integrate this archetype into your personal growth, so that the masks you wear serve you rather than trap you. The word persona comes from the Latin for mask, specifically the mask worn by actors in ancient theatres. Jung borrowed this word to describe the societal mask we all wear when interacting with others. For Jung, the persona was not the true self. It was a kind of interface between the individual and society. You can think of it like a filter or a role. A doctor wears a persona of competence, authority, and care. A parent wears a persona of responsibility and nurturing. A comedian wears a persona of humour and lightness. And none of these masks are false entirely, but they are incomplete. They are a part of us, designed for social functioning, but they are not the whole of who we are. The persona archetype exists for a reason. It serves an incredibly important purpose: to mediate between the inner world and the outer world. Imagine if you went to work and said every single thing you were thinking, expressed every emotion you were feeling, or followed every impulse that came into your mind. Very quickly you'd be fired or ostracized. The persona keeps us adapted to the world, and it helps us fit into communities. It helps us be understood by others, but mostly it helps us navigate social expectations. In that sense, the persona is a kind of social survival tool. It's like clothing for the psyche. Just as you wouldn't go to a job interview naked, you also wouldn't show up to one with your raw, unfiltered psyche on display. The persona is the suit you wear. Now, the persona archetype teaches several lessons, and they're subtle but powerful. It teaches adaptability. Life requires flexibility. We need to be able to adjust how we show up, depending on context. A healthy persona allows us to navigate different roles smoothly. It teaches boundaries. The persona helps us create a buffer between our vulnerable inner world and the demands of society. Not everyone needs to see our deepest fears or desires. It teaches identity as performance. The persona reminds us that identity is, in part, performed. We are not fixed beings. We are always in dialogue with the roles we take on. But, and this is crucial, the persona also warns us about the dangers of over-identification. The shadow side of the persona archetype emerges when we confuse the mask with the self. This can manifest in a few ways. Someone may be so identified with being the doctor or the parent, or the comedian, that they lose touch with who they are outside of these roles. Then, when the role collapses, like in retirement, divorce, or career failure, they feel hollow. Equally, when the persona is used as pure performance, without any connection to the authentic self, it itself becomes shallow. People can feel fake, manipulative, or disconnected. And lastly, when people live only through masks, the deeper psyche, the self, will protest. These people often come to feel exhausted, depressed, or directionless when the persona is allowed to dominate. So the persona shadow, therefore, is mistaking the mask for the deeper person. Under psychedelics, the persona can become very visible. For some, this looks like seeing masks melt away. You might literally feel like your social identities, your job, your reputation, your public image dissolve, leaving you raw and exposed. This can be terrifying, but also liberating. Others encounter the persona more symbolically. You might see yourself in costumes, or encounter figures wearing masks, or experience role reversals. These can all be the psyche's way of pointing to the persona archetype. One of the lessons psychedelics often bring is that you are not your mask. For example, someone who has lived their whole life as the high achiever might suddenly feel the fragility of that role. In the psychedelic state, they may realize beneath the drive to succeed is a deep longing to simply be accepted. In this way, psychedelics strip away personas to reveal the core psyche underneath. After such experiences, integration is essential. We can't live in a society without a persona, but we also can't thrive if we're imprisoned by it. So how do we integrate the persona archetype? We can become aware of the masks. Start by noticing the different masks you wear. Write them down. At work, I am this mask, and with friends I am this one. Awareness is the first step. Then we can dialogue with the mask. Try journaling as if your personas were speaking. Ask it, what role do you play? What are you protecting me from? And what do you need from me? We can then try balancing authenticity and the role. Ask yourself, where am I hiding behind the mask? Where can I let a little more of my authentic self show through? Sometimes creative expression is helpful. Art, theatre, or writing can be incredible tools for exploring personas. Acting out different roles can consciously help us loosen our persona's unconscious grip. Lastly, shadow work is vital. Explore what lies beneath the persona. Often personas hide vulnerabilities, wounds, or fears. For example, the persona of the strong leader may cover insecurity or fear of rejection. Let's ground this with some examples. The career persona. Imagine a lawyer who has lived entirely through the role of the professional. When they take psychedelics, they suddenly feel the absurdity of the courtroom, the costumes and the jargon. They see it all as theatre. This may initially be destabilising, but it could perhaps open the door to asking, who am I beyond this role? Let's look at the social persona. Someone might always be the funny friend, but again, under psychedelics, they feel deep grief emerge. Grief they've never expressed, because their chosen persona won't allow it. Integration here means learning to show more than just the mask of humour. What about the spiritual persona? Even in psychedelic communities, there's a risk of persona, the mask of the enlightened one, or the guru. Psychedelics can sometimes humble us by tearing down these masks and reminding us that we're human. So where does the persona fit in the grand scheme of Jungian individuation? The persona is not the enemy, it is a necessary tool. The key is to keep it flexible and transparent, not rigid and opaque. A healthy persona allows you to move between roles without losing your core identity. It lets you be a professional at work, a parent at home, and a friend at the pub, all without mistaking any of those masks for your ultimate truth. In Jung's model, individuation requires us to differentiate from the persona. This means learning to see the mask for what it is, useful but not ultimate. Once we do this, we can engage with deeper archetypes, the shadow, the anima, and ultimately, the self. On a broader level, the persona archetype also teaches us about culture. Societies have personas, collective masks that they wear. In the corporate world, the persona might be professionalism and efficiency. In spiritual communities, it might be humility and wisdom. In social media, it's the curated image of happiness and success. Recognizing the persona at the cultural level can help us resist being unconsciously swept up by these collective masks. So to summarize, the persona archetype is the mask we wear to interface with the world. It teaches adaptability, boundaries, and the performative nature of identity. Its shadow emerges when we confuse the mask with the self, leading to inauthenticity, burnout, or hollowness. Psychedelics often strip away the persona, revealing the raw psyche beneath, a sometimes horrifying and sometimes liberating experience. Integration means keeping the persona flexible, useful for society, but never to be mistaken for the totality of who we are. The persona archetype ultimately teaches this: wear the mask, but don't let the mask wear you. In life, we all play roles, but beneath the mask is the deeper self, waiting to be acknowledged. Psychedelics, Jungian work, and conscious self-reflection give us the chance to live with masks that are honest, adaptive, and in service of something greater than performance, in service to truth, and in service to ourselves.